Hello once again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a build and review, this time of the MG Strike Rouge plus Ootori. So the mobile suit in question here is the Strike Rouge. It's a mobile suit from Gundam Seed, and it's piloted by Kagali Yula Atta, which is, what a name. The Ootori is a ship that also acts as a backpack for the Strike Rouge. You can see it here, it looks kind of like a spaceship. And it comes with a ton of weapons, with the best being that brilliantly named large anti-ship sword. What a name for a weapon. So we're going to start taking a look at some of the details. This cost 48 quid, came on 17 sprues, which does include its own base. Has some dry decals and a couple types of stickers, and it took me about 10 to 12 hours to build. So let's get on to the build, and I want to do something a bit different with this. I say that in every video, and I think my main consistency is my inconsistency, which I hope you will approve of. I had some feedback from people that they'd like to know what a first timer should buy, so I'm going to show a couple of my must-owns, including an optional item for new starters. But first of all, as we always do, we're going to take a look at the box, what comes in there. You can see there comes some stickers, these realistic decals, which are basically stickers, the cheap stickers in the background, which I always hate, and some dry decals. Here's the items that I usually use: some nippers, a hobby knife, an old man one with an easier to hold handle, some tweezers. This is an optional item, but some single blade nippers like my god hands here are really useful for making second cuts. A glass file, or just a sanding stick if you don't want to use a glass file, and a cutting mat. If you get all of those items, obviously buying the single blade nippers, you're pretty much good to go to build any hobby kit. You can often pick up bundles of these tools in a starter set, and I do recommend them. I think that's a good way to get into the hobby. So I'm also going to show a few other tips, including how I do panel lining. One of the tips I have is get yourself a bottle of the pour type panel liner. I think it's definitely better than the pens or the markers. Give it a bit of a shake. Make sure that the ink is well stirred, you don't get any lumps and it doesn't clump up on you. And get a piece of tissue. It helps to wick any excess off that you've got. So I tend to wick it off on the lid, well the opening of the pot. Get rid of any excess on the tissue. And then I can kind of go over the lines, and I'll either pour them into the line by holding it against one of the lines, or rub it against the lines. By doing that, you get a really good amount of ink into each of the panel lines themselves. In terms of cleaners, I really like this lighter fluid. You get really good results with it. It cleans up the ink so well. And it's also really cheap compared to like Gundam marker, the eraser ones, the panel line eraser markers, which are like a £5 for one of those pens. You get so much more. Here I've done a bit of a close-up of the shield, and the reason I've done that is to show when you panel line, go for it. It doesn't matter if you make a mess, in my opinion, because when you clean up, that's when you'll see the differences. You're better off being quick with the application of the ink and taking your time with the tidying. Because even if you take ages to panel line really carefully, you're still going to have to clean up anyway. So 10% on the actual panel lining, 90% on the cleanup. Here's a bit of a tip for how to cut off parts as well. So when you cut off parts, try and cut off quite a bit of the plastic away from the part as you can. So where it connects onto the runner or the sprue, try to give a lot of plastic there, so when you cut it, it's easier to get. Here you can see me adjust my camera, and the reason for that is I had to pick up the part, because when you cut from behind a sprue, it can mean that the parts pop off and you end up having to search for them on the floor. Whereas if you cut forwards, like I'm doing here, from the front going backwards, the parts generally tend to just fall onto the cutting mat, and it means that you're spending less time digging around looking for them. Here's all the parts for one of the pieces. I did a bit of a demo of this in my last video, the real grade versus high grade unicorn, so watch that if you want to see it in more detail. But I tend to cut off all the parts for a piece, like in this case the chest. Once I've got all the bits cut off of the sprue, I then get my little pot, and holding the parts over the pot, or tidying up into it, I trim off the knobs. That way I'm not standing on them in bare feet or socks, which can be really painful, to be honest. So trim them up like that and you'll catch all the parts. Let's take a look at the assembly. I haven't shown the rest of the build. Like I said, I'm trying to do something a bit different, so a bit of a beginner's guide just now. And for the rest of it, I just really want to show off the model. And in this case, you can see the finished model is really pretty. It's not actually white, it's a very, very light shade of pink. And then it has a few other shades of pink for the rest of the other parts, the feet, the chest, etc. And it's a really striking look, which is hilarious because, you know, it's a strike rouge. And that pink is obviously where the rouge part of the name comes from. I know I said I don't really like the realistic decals, but I think they've come out quite nice on this. They look really pretty. There's some dry decals mixed in with those, but it's only a small sheet with the dry decals. The weapon set's pretty cool. It comes with these tiny little pocket knives, kind of like Evangelion's 01. And Ootori is fantastic. Here it is without its wings, really. I'm going to assemble it now. It comes with double wings on each side, kind of like a biplane, but it reminds me more of an X-Wing. Kind of like a cross between an X-Wing and something like the Vic Viper from Gradius. And it just looks brilliant. Like as a backpack or as a winged suit. I think this is a really impressive looking kit. I've got the MGX Strike Freedom, the Verkar Wing Zero. I've got quite a few winged kits. But this is up there with those in my opinion, because as a backpack that just looks brilliant. So you can see me putting on the massive rail guns. There's a rocket pod that goes on the top as well. And it even allows you to fit the anti-ship sword onto the Ootori. It just looks bonkers like that. You get a tiny little minifig as well. To be honest, I tend to chuck most of those into a drawer. I've got quite a few of them now. And here you can see those little knives. They fit into these kind of holsters on the side skirts. It's quite cool. It's nice to be able to store your weapons on a kit rather than, again, chucking them in a little pot in a drawer. Here you can see me switching out the hands. So you do get a couple different types of hands, fists, holding hands. There's also a trigger hand, which you can kind of see here. And I'm going to pop that onto the gun just to show off how the gun looks when you store it. That's the holding hand that I use for the sword. And here is the trigger hand. You can see the finger is in the trigger pose. So you just clip them in. It's normal master grade hands. It has that really nice ability to switch them out. Put the weapon in with the hand and then just pop the hand back onto the back of the hand. Doing a little bit of a pose. It's quite poseable, this. I quite like it with its arms stretched up like it's doing exercises. It looks quite cool. But you can get this into some really nice poses. It's very, very poseable, I suppose. Looks pretty cool. Even just like that, just with the gun, none of the Ootori, none of the other weapons. Here's a bit of a 360 of the Ootori itself. As you can see, it looks very X-Wing like now. I'm hoping Disney doesn't come after me for talking about Star Wars IP, but I don't care. It looks fantastic with all the stickers on there, the panel lining. It looks brilliant, and the same for the Strike Rouge. I love that sword. I think it's brilliant. The actual anime accurate art doesn't have all those red stickers on the sword. I'm kind of disappointed I put them on. And here we're going to take a look how you combine those two things. So how do you combine the Strike Rouge with the Ootoris? How do you turn it into backpack mode? So you can see there that the base allows you to put the Ootori on there. And what you do is you fold down these railguns. Once you've folded those down, you can pull out the canopy, the cockpit of the Ootori, and fold that down, so a bit like a transformer. And then there is a slot there that plugs into the back of the Strike Rouge itself. So once you've folded that down, now you can see the slot right in the middle of the back of the Strike Rouge. You just plug it in. And because it's quite a big piece of plastic that's connecting in there, it's really solid. It's a really sturdy connection. I didn't move the rocket pod out of the way, so I do that here. These are on arms with just a pivot joint. It's not a ball joint or anything, so you can't rotate it around, just change the angle at which it's laid. And with the backpack on, I think you agree, once you pop it actually onto the stand again, this looks fantastic. It's such a pretty kit. It looks super cool, like super anime, you know, that massive backpack flying out the back of it. With one of the biggest swords I think I've seen for a Gundam. And then you add in that pink aesthetic, and I just think it looks wonderful. I love this kit. So let's make a start on a review. And here you can see it next to the high grade Zaku for scale. Obviously it's a mask grade, so it is a lot bigger. Moving into the pros, it's a fantastic version of this kit. I love that pink. It's a really easy build and you get a lot of kit for the money. I don't really like the stickers. You only get a small set of dry decals, and I'd have loved to have had some water slides instead. And here you can see it's been added to my shelf. So overall it's a shelf out of 10. This is my main display shelf for my kits. See the perfect grade X here there. All kidding aside, it's a brilliant kit and it's highly deserving of a recommended. I do recommend this kit if you like the Strike. This is a brilliant version of it and well worth picking up. Thank you for taking the time to watch, and special thanks to all of those of you who comment or have liked or subscribed. I really appreciate all the comments and all the likes that you do give to my videos. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye.